welcome back to my channel. I was going to make something today, but then I decided to change it a little bit. As most of you might have heard by now about Kobe Bryant's passing, and being in LA and being so close to the Staples Center, literally I can walk there. I thought that since there's a whole lot of people paying tribute and condolences online and social media, etc., that I was gonna make his favorite meal. Until I found out that it was frog legs with a garlic and honey sauce. No offense, Kobe, that's kind of not something that I'm gonna do. That's a little bit out of my range. I've never dealt with that before, so I am going to do something else. Since he did grow up in Italy, I am going to be making an Italian meal. I'm going to be doing some pasta with an arrabbiata sauce, which is basically a spicy tomato sauce, and I'm also going to be doing eggplant parmesan. Okay, now for the eggplant, I've gone ahead and washed them. I'm not going to peel them. I'm going to leave them skin on, and I'm gonna trim the ends. If you want to peel them, go ahead, just, with a vegetable peeler. It's pretty self-explanatory. And then I'm going to do this in rounds. So I'm gonna cut them about a 1/4 of an inch thick or so. And hopefully, sometimes eggplant is a hit or miss. So I have 3, but I only really need 2 for the amount that I'm making tonight. Okay, after I have my eggplant sliced up, I'm going to get a sheet pan. I've lined it with some paper towels. You can also line it with like a tea towel or a clean kitchen towel. And instead of like individually salting each piece, I'm not going to do that. I'm basically going to sprinkle this with salt. And after I've got, fairly decent amount, then I'm going to take my eggplant, lay it down. And for this part, I'm doing it as closely together as possible. And then once I have a layer down, I'm going to sprinkle the top with salt, and then both sides are salted. And the salt will help draw out the moisture and draw out bitterness. And if you feel like, oh no, this is too much, don't worry about it, because you are going to be rinsing this off when they're done. And then I'm going to put another layer over. And yes, you can do this on top of each other. And just do the same thing. And so I've gone ahead and covered my second layer. I'm going to put another sheet pan on top and just kind of add some weight to this. And I'm going to let this sit for about an hour, and then I will show you how to rinse it off. So after your eggplant has sit and have been salted, they do get more pliable as well, as you can see, So I'm going to be placing this in a colander, and then I'll be rinsing it under cold water. And then to dry them off, I'm basically going to lay them on a clean kitchen towel or a tea towel. Again, you can use whatever you have. And I'm going to dry them. To do this, I typically, lay it down and then wrap it around, because I just don't have a lot of patience sometimes, but there's a lot of steps to this. Nothing is difficult, but it is a process. So this is how I dry it quicker. So for the eggplant, I have my prepared eggplant. I have some tomato sauce, and that's just, you know, a basil, onion, garlic marinara. I have Parmesan cheese as well as some shredded mozzarella and also fresh mozzarella. I have some parsley and basil, some flour, eggs, and breadcrumb. So this does take some coordination. Now traditionally you do fry the eggplant. I'm not going to fry it. I'm going to be baking it in the oven. Okay, so you're going to want to set up before you start. Like I said, you have your eggplant already salted and drained. I have some beaten egg with salt and pepper. And then I also have my breadcrumb, some flour, a little bit of Parmesan cheese, salt, and pepper. And then I'm going to be baking this. So I have a rack roasting pan, and then I'm also going to use another, like a cookie sheet with a baking rack, and because I'm going to need more than one sheet to do this. Okay, so what you're going to do, you're going to take an eggplant, you're going to dip it in the egg, and then dip it in the flour breadcrumb mixture. And lay it on your sheet. And then just repeat this until your sheet pan is full. I do have my oven preheating at 400. Okay, so when you have your trays ready to go in the oven, you're gonna drizzle with some olive oil, and this will help them brown. If you don't want to use olive oil, you can do like a little bit of butter on each piece, but you know, I am using olive oil. And the reason that I do this on a sheet pan, like on a rack, it's because I want the hot air from the oven to go underneath. If you don't have a baking rack, then go ahead and you're going to want to turn it probably in about 10 minutes or so, depending on the size of your eggplant. Now, if you're wondering when you're done breading your eggplant and you're looking down at your pans with the flour and the egg, and if you're thinking, I have some left over, what do I do with it? Well, you're going to make fritters, because that is what you do. You don't throw it out. You're basically going to combine the egg with the flour and breadcrumb mixture and then just fry them up. So basically, you can do this either way. I'm going to scrape whatever's left from the breadcrumb and cheese. And then basically mix this together. It will start to form kind of into a dough. And there's usually just enough for maybe one or two. Or you might not have enough to do this, but even if you just did a little one, consider it like a little treat for all your hard work, and you have something to snack on while you finish the rest of the meal. Now, I did have a few pieces of eggplant that did not fit on my baking sheet, so I'm just going to go ahead and fry these. I'm not going to wait for the oven. You can fry. It is going to be faster. The only thing is, you're going to have oil splattered all over your stove, you know. So I feel like frying, it's really good. Don't get me wrong, but it's just more work, I feel. If you choose to fry, this step is crucial. You want to have some plates lined with paper towels, and once they come out of the pan, put them on so that the excess oil can drain. Otherwise, they're just going to become soggy, and that's not good. And then this is my fritter. So after mixing it, I basically put it in a pan and until it cooks, kind of like a pancake, but it's egg based with, you know, breadcrumb and cheese. And then you just, you know, have a snack because it's going to be a while before the eggplant is done. Now, if you're frying, you are going to have better results as far as getting color on the eggplant. But since we're going to be putting sauce and cheese, it's not going to be a big deal. These are done. It's just, you know, they don't get really, really brown when you put olive oil. You will have slightly better results if you put a little bit of butter on it. But, you know, either way, I mean, whatever your preference is, fry or bake in the oven. So now you're basically going to be assembling. I am going to put some sauce on the bottom of my dish. I have about a quart of tomato sauce. You can use, you know, your favorite. If you make your own, great. Or if you don't, you know, whatever you like at the store, that's fine. But if you can make your own, you should. And then I'm gonna go ahead and layer. And I basically want an even layer of the eggplant. So, you know, you're gonna have a variety of sizes. Just lay them flat and then try to fit as much as you can. And trust me, it'll work. And then after you put your first layer down, I am gonna put a little bit of sauce. You don't want to drown your eggplant. You just, you know, want it to get a little sauce. And go ahead and spread it around. And I have two types of mozzarella. I have the one that I shredded that is part skim, and then I have fresh mozzarella. The fresh one I'm going to use for the top. The other one, and I didn't even, you know, shred that much, I'm just going to lightly sprinkle this around, and this is basically just going to help hold everything together. And because it's eggplant parmesan, you do want to use some Parmesan cheese also. So, and this is going to be in between the layers as well. And I went ahead and chopped up some basil and parsley. I am going to use this also as part of my layers just to give it a little bit of freshness. I feel it helps a little bit. And it tastes really good, and it's going to smell really good. And so just keep layering. Frankly, the hardest part is over. Prepping the eggplant takes the longest. Once that's done, it goes much faster. And then if you had your oven at 400 for the eggplant, you will want to go ahead and drop it down to 350. The size of my baking dish is, I believe, 8 by 8, but it kind of slants at the sides. And I'm just going to repeat this until I get to the top. Okay, so as you get to your last layer, don't forget to put a little bit of sauce like along the sides of your baking dish, just so it doesn't dry out too much. Kind of like lasagna. You want, you want to cover your edges. And I did end up having quite a bit of sauce left over. That's fine. I can always find a use for that. Okay, so, and I just have a little bit of the shredded the shredded mozzarella left, so I am going to go ahead and use it. This ended up to be about 4 layers with 2 eggplant. And I am going to put the last of my herbs. And you can always add more after it's baked. Also, it just tastes nice. Okay, and then with your fresh mozzarella, you're going to go ahead, and I sliced them pretty thin. So basically go ahead and dot this around your dish. Oh, I might have to cut a little more, or maybe not. Fresh mozzarella will spread, but not a whole lot. So, I didn't cut the whole thing. I just cut some of it. I'm gonna add a little more Parmesan. And then I'm going to, I'm gonna go ahead and cover this with foil and leave the foil on for about 15, 20 minutes. Then I'll take it off and continue baking it for another 15 minutes or so. Now, for my pasta, this is actually a really simple sauce to put together. I'm going to be using just some plain tomato sauce, some crushed red pepper flake, dried oregano, garlic, and onion, and I am going to throw in like a fillet of anchovy. The pasta shape that I'm going to be using is celentani. It's basically like a corkscrew. It also goes by cavatappi. So whatever you find, you can use elbow macaroni, you can use rotini shape, penne, whatever you want. So I'm going to just prepare my herbs. I got about a half a teaspoon of the red pepper flakes, and that'll be to start. And the same thing with the oregano. And then as the sauce progresses, I'll taste it and see if I want to add anything. So I'm just setting it aside so I have it ready. And then for my garlic, I will be slicing this up as thinly as possible. And for my onion, I do want to dice it as finely as possible. When I want such a fine dice, once I do like the first pass, I do go through it a few more times. So the anchovy, I am using 1 anchovy fillet. It's just for a little bit of something salty in the background of the sauce, and I love that I found this little one because when I use anchovy, I don't really need too much, and the fact that it's in a jar that I can close and put in the fridge is super helpful. So I've gone ahead and put my olive oil, garlic, anchovy, hot pepper flake, and the oregano, and I'm starting this again in a cold pan. If you happen to have one of the oven and ranges that are one piece and the oven makes the stovetop hot, then have your pan sitting off to the side until you want to start. And I have this just under medium heat, and I want this to kind of come together. I don't want it to burn. I just want it to infuse the oil. And the more you kind of like manipulate the anchovy, it'll break down into the sauce. You know, you're not going to know that it's there. Then as it starts to sizzle, and if you start smelling, you know, like the garlic and just a hint of the anchovy, then, you know, your oil has become infused with all the flavors, or at least for the time being. Go ahead and add your onion. And you're going to want to cook this for about another minute, maybe a little longer. Since you dice the onion finely, it's not going to need as much time. And you do want to stir this quite a bit. You don't want anything to be burning. If your pot or pan starts to smoke, just turn down the heat a little bit. And once you see that the onion has kind of got a little color on it, go ahead and add your tomato sauce. This is just 1 can. And then go ahead and incorporate this. I did go ahead and rinse the can a bit, so this is about a half can of water. And it's going to end up reducing anyways, so this is fine. Let this come to a simmer. I've gone ahead and tasted this, and so I added just a pinch of salt, some cracked black pepper, and another good pinch of red pepper flake. I've also added in like a splash of balsamic vinegar. I swear the Italians are going to scream at me for doing that probably, but just a little bit, again, just for that slight acidity. And I did taste it. I added a little bit more pepper flake and another pinch of oregano. We'll have adjusted measurements in the recipe below. So the eggplant is out of the oven. I did turn on the broiler for the last couple of minutes, just until the tops got browned. And we got our pasta ready too. Okay, so this has been resting for a little bit. Now this can easily serve minimum 4 people. And you know, I only made half a pound of pasta. This is, again, meant to have leftovers. So it kind of depends. You can easily double the eggplant recipe. It freezes well. You know, if you wanted to do like 2 pans and then put 1 in the freezer, that's awesome. This way you have a meal for another time. Now, if you feel that this is like too much tomato going on, you have the tomato sauce and the eggplant parmesan, as well as the tomato sauce for your pasta. An easy fix, I would not do a green salad. What my mom usually does, and that's how we had it growing up, chopped vegetables. So like cucumber, celery, carrot, radish, whatever you have on hand, just chop it up. It'll be a nice palate cleanser too at the end. So even fennel would be really great. Now I know this was not the frog legs with the honey garlic sauce. I read that somewhere, I looked it up, but it just wasn't happening. So this was actually part of a meal that Kobe had flown in some chef from Italy to make some nice dinner for him and his wife. And I'm sure there was more to it than just eggplant parmesan and some pasta. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video and this meal. I will have described recipes in the description box, so please be sure to look at that. And And to Kobe's family and to all of the victims' family, I do send my sincere condolences. Thank you so much for watching. Please be sure to like and subscribe to my channel, and I will see you next time.